All right, today we're diving into a really powerful idea that comes from the factory floor, but honestly, it has lessons for all of us. It's called Total Productive Maintenance, or TPM for short. And at its heart, it's about this one simple but kind of radical shift, turning the people who just run the machines into the people who truly own them. Let's get into it. So, to really get why this matters, let's just start with a single question. What happens when just one piece of equipment in a massive billion-dollar facility goes down? You might think it's just a repair bill, right? But the real cost? Oh, it's so much bigger than that. And that brings us right to our first section, where we're going to look at the traditional and often pretty chaotic way things used to be handled. Traditionally, you really had two ways to go about this. Over on the left, you've got reactive maintenance, which is basically just waiting for something to break and then scrambling like crazy to fix it. And on the right, you have the core idea behind TPM, proactive maintenance. And that is all about preventing the disaster from ever happening in the first place. See, when a machine fails, it's like a domino effect. Boom, production grinds to a halt with unplanned downtime. That can create all sorts of safety hazards. It can tank product quality, and it can even lead to environmental issues. And it all adds up to one thing: costs that just spiral completely out of control. So, how do you break this super expensive cycle? Well, the answer isn't some new fancy tool or a complicated procedure. It's actually a fundamental shift in mindset. It's about building a whole new way for operators to think about their job. You know, the easiest way to understand this is to just think about your own car. You don't just drive it until the engine completely blows up on the highway, right? Of course not. You check the oil, you listen for weird noises, you keep the tires inflated. In short, you take care of it. You act like an owner. And this quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it. This is probably the single most important idea. TPM is not a maintenance program. It is an operator mindset. It's a philosophy that's built from the ground up to empower the person who knows that piece of equipment better than anyone else. And this is what that mindset really looks like. It's called the equipment ownership mindset. And it's just this simple belief that the person who spends all day, every day with a machine, they know its sounds, its quirks, its personality better than anyone. They are the true expert. But a mindset is great and all, but it needs a solid structure to support it. So how do you actually build and sustain this culture of ownership? Well, it all rests on a pretty comprehensive framework. And that framework is built on 8 interconnected pillars, all of them working together to create this culture of total reliability. And as you can see, they cover everything. You've got pillars focused on proactive stuff like planned maintenance and early equipment management. That's about designing machines that are just easier to take care of from day one. Then you have others about getting better over time, like quality maintenance and focused improvement, which use data to solve those nagging recurring problems. And it even goes all the way to training, safety, and the admin offices, making sure the entire organization is reinforcing this ownership idea. But here's the key. For the operator on the floor, the whole journey, everything, it all starts with one pillar in particular: autonomous maintenance. This is their foundation. This is where it all begins. Okay, so let's get practical. Let's look at how this philosophy actually translates into the operator's daily mission. This is where the big ideas really meet the factory floor. So what does an operator actually do? They follow this super simple but incredibly powerful 4-step routine. It's known by the acronym CILT. First, they clean the equipment because that's what allows them to properly inspect it for any issues. Then they lubricate all the necessary parts and tighten up anything that's gotten loose. I mean, these are simple actions, but they have a massive impact. And here's the crucial point. This simple routine completely transforms the operator's role. They're not just a button pusher anymore. No way. They become the equipment's first line of defense. And they do this by basically becoming detectives. They're hunting for clues. They get trained to use all their senses to spot the earliest possible signs of trouble: a weird noise, a new vibration, a slight change in temperature, or even a tiny little leak. They catch the problem when it's small and cheap to fix, not when it's a full-blown catastrophe. So we've got this new mindset, a new daily mission. So what? What's the result? Well, that brings us to the payoff, which is measured in some very real, very tangible benefits. The ultimate scorecard for success here, the way you know if it's working, is a metric called OEE, or Overall Equipment Effectiveness. It's this single number that gives you a really clear picture of how well a factory is actually performing. See, OEE breaks performance down into three simple questions. Availability asks, is the machine running when it's supposed to be? Performance asks, is it running as fast as it possibly can? And quality asks, is it making good products without any defects? The whole goal of TPM is to push the score in all three of these areas as high as possible. We're talking world-class companies chasing scores of 85% or even higher. And this chart right here, well, it makes the financial argument crystal clear. That tall bar on the left, that's the massive, unpredictable cost of a breakdown. The tiny little bar on the right, that's the small, manageable cost of prevention. The choice is, well, it's obvious, isn't it? It is always, always cheaper to prevent a failure than to repair it. Look, if you forget everything else from this explainer, just remember this one rule. It's the entire philosophy wrapped up in a single command. Treat equipment as if you own it. This idea of ownership completely revolutionizes factories. It boosts safety, quality, and profits. But it also raises a much bigger question for all of us, doesn't it? What's the most important machine in your own life or your work? And what could possibly change if you started treating it like you truly, truly owned it?